All right, so looks like we are live. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Good Old Gamer. So, it's been a little while since I've done a live stream. I've got a new PC set up, so if you guys can just let me know if you can see me, you can hear me, make sure everything's okay on that front, that would be excellent. I'm assuming everything is working okay, but you never really know. So, it'd be really, really great to hear from you guys on that one. But hope everybody's having a great Friday. Hope you have a fantastic weekend planned. And yeah, hope everybody's been doing well. So this is going to be kind of interesting. This is just going to be more of a chat because we haven't really had time to chat about this sort of stuff since the channel took a left turn on direction. And I figured I'd go over my experiences, some of the things that I've learned, hear from you guys, any questions, any thoughts, any comments. And yeah, we can address those here live together. So that is the goal for today's stream. All right, so Crazy says we sound good. Awesome. Fantastic. So yeah, everything's going pretty good on my end. We're doing a pretty decent amount of business. This week's been a little weird because one of my in-laws went to the hospital, and then my kids have been sick, and then of course I got sick. So it's been kind of a slower week, but still doing halfway decent. So it's just been a very strange. Most of the business was done on one day for the most part, but it was a very big day, so it kind of makes up for it. It's kind of interesting how that all works out. Let's see. Lift off, let's go. All right, you guys are ready to rock. So yeah, I guess I'll just go over while we're waiting for some folks to get on in here and get the chat going a little bit. I can kind of go over kind of how things have been running for me, some of the things that have definitely started coming up here recently. So one of the things that I really, really enjoyed when I first started doing this was just running around doing the hunting, I guess you could say. And I still kind of enjoy that to a certain degree, but at the same time, your time management definitely is a bigger factor, right? So, for example, like I really, really enjoy just going to like flea markets and hunting, just seeing what there was, sort of a thing. And nowadays, it's more like I need to go to places that have a very high probability of having stuff that I'm looking for versus, just maybe I might find something. So I've definitely noticed that that sort of aspect has fallen off for me a little bit. So if any of you guys are also out there doing this, I'd love to hear from you what your experience is. For the most part, for me, it's more, I guess the fun is trying to figure out new ways to optimize. That's kind of where I'm at this point. But let's see, checking with you guys. All right, so we're still waiting for some folks to get on in here. Let's see. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I would definitely recommend if you are getting into this. You know, I don't know. I guess it's just like with anything, how do you keep that thrill going, sort of a thing. I kind of want to get that back, I think. Like that was a lot of fun. But nowadays, like, just don't have a whole lot of free time. That's why like it's very rare for me to do a live stream. My wife's taking like a week and a half off from work. So I was able to squeeze this in because I was able to get other things done when I normally wouldn't be able to. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting experience. Now, when it comes to the financial side of things, hey Andrew, welcome, welcome, welcome. The financial side of things, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, the amount of people out there that are interested in just older games is ridiculous. I'm actually starting to notice that a lot of the places that I source, a lot of the places that I go locally, their prices are going up, 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 and up, which isn't the best thing in the world. But what this means is there's obviously enough people looking. I was actually at a pawn shop earlier today, and there's some older guy in there who's just looking at some PS2 games, and really nice guy. He was like, "Oh, am I in your way?" I'm like, "No, man, you have at it. You have at it." I'm loaded up on PS2 games right now, but I'm okay. But then as I was like leaving, I was checking out, and then there was just another one. Like that's becoming the primary focus for a lot of these places, and it's really interesting to see this giant shift. As you'll see, like everybody talking about, oh, digital's go, it's the future. That's where everything's going. massive amounts of the population are saying, "No, thank you," and they're just gonna opt out of that system entirely. They just won't if something comes out digital only, they just won't buy it. They'll just be like, "Nope, no thanks," and they'll just buy, some N64 games or PS2 games instead. And, right now, I'm starting to see, the 7th generation is starting to pick up. So for a while there, GameCube was the big one, right? Like when I first started a couple months ago, it's GameCube. That's like what everybody wanted. And that's still hot. I'm not gonna lie, it definitely is. But Wii is now slowly becoming the new GameCube. Everybody wants a Wii. And what I've noticed is really interesting is it's a lot of women. So a lot of girls, when they were younger, they probably had a Wii. They didn't have like a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox. That was typically more of a guy thing because the games on those platforms tended to cater towards those crowds. Wii was kind of agnostic. So a lot of these younger girls, when they were kids, they probably had a Wii, and now they want that experience back. 20 something years later, they have money, and that's what they're looking for. So the market for Wii stuff is huge. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I can let you guys know right now is stock up on Wii, anything Mario. Those have been selling pretty well for quite a while. Wii Sports. These are things that everybody kind of knows about because they've been selling good for a while, but it's the actual systems. You cannot find Wii stuff pretty much anywhere locally, at least where I live. And anytime I post one, they're gone immediately. So what I do is I try to get them for about $40. I tend to get them in giant lots, like that video that I put out the other day. You just buy a whole bunch of stuff. And usually there's a couple of Wiis in there. And then I kind of value them at, like I said, I would personally pay about $40 for a set. So that's not enough to charge 100. That's more than a double up. So I'll throw in like a Mario Galaxy, which are still cheap. They're like 15, 20 bucks. And then some cheaper games that you'll just come across over time. And people gobble that up. That, for $100, that just seems to be the sweet spot. Throw 2 controllers in there instead of 1. And that's been doing extremely well. To the point where I bought a collection the other day I wasn't too thrilled with, but it had 3 Wiis with it. And I was like, well, as long as 2 of the 3 work, which 2 of the 3 worked, I'm like, then we're going to be doing all right because I was completely sold out, which was absolutely staggering. But yeah, that's not something that I was expecting, man. Andrew saying, can't stay long, dropped in, say good day, have a good day. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for popping on by. So yeah, I'm kind of curious if you guys are actually actively doing this. Marty over on the Discord said that he's getting into it. He did $700 in eBay this week, which is pretty solid. That's pretty good. Looks like the eBay fees are really chomping into him pretty good. So yeah, that's something you do have to account for. Typically, if you're selling lower dollar stuff, like if you're selling like a $15 game, for example. Let's say you're doing a $15 game and then there's like $4 shipping that you're charging them. They're going to pay that. So it's like $19. Well, you got to pay 15% on that $4, that shipping. eBay charges the same rate. They take out of that as well. So this is to stop people from doing like $100 shipping and like $3 for an item. eBay doesn't care if you do that because they're going to take the 15% out of the total regardless. So it kind of screws over the people that were doing that and taking advantage of the system, but on lower dollar stuff that really kind of screws you over, because you're paying 15% on like that 4. What was that come out to be? And that's like 60 cents, right? So 60 cents on that $4. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're only making 15 and then an extra 60 cents is being taken out, it's a pretty fair amount, especially if you're considering you're only making $7 off of that. So if you paid, let's say $7.50, and then you're making $7.50, but then they're taking an extra 60 cents, that's almost an extra 10% being taken away from you. So you have to kind of understand that lower dollar stuff doesn't really work so good on eBay. My other suggestion would be is clump them together, sell a whole bunch of games. You really kind of want to get around that like $100 mark. Because then the shipping doesn't really matter as much. A few cents here and there, like it starts becoming a rounding error. But yeah, I was glad to see that he was doing well. So that's hopefully some extra money in his pocket. And kind of curious if any of you guys are taking off, if you're doing well. Like I said, the market is there. At least, like I said, where I live, eBay is doing extremely well for me, especially on the weekends. Get 2, 3, 4, $500 days on eBay. You know, pretty consistently. I mean, I would say like $100 day on eBay is probably a light day, if I'm not listing things, if there's not a lot of items there. Um, so, I mean, that's just income constantly, and anybody can do that. Any one of you guys can do that. And then this really all kind of goes back to the reason why I started going this route was just to show you guys, hey, look, there are other ways to, generate income. So this way, because everybody was complaining about PC part prices getting expensive, it's like, yeah, but if everything costs double, you need to make twice as much money. That's all you can control. You can't control, the price of a graphics card. What you can control is whether or not you buy it or whether or not you can afford it. And, stuff like that. If things are getting more expensive, you got to generate more income. And, maybe it's not games. Maybe you guys are doing shoes. Shoes are big. Guns are a big one. Anything that people collect is honestly what you could do. You could do Barbies. I mean, if you know a lot about Barbies, I'm sure you can make a ton of money on that stuff. I don't know. I don't know anything about any of that. So, just kind of curious to see if anybody's actually, making any headway. So I was very encouraged by Marty. That's probably part of the reason why I wanted to do the stream. I wanted to check in with you guys, see if you guys are got anything going. But yeah, the chat seems pretty light. I don't know if you guys don't have much going on. Do you have anything going on this weekend? Are you guys what steps are you taking to? I would recommend if you're not making twice as much as you were in 2020, what steps are you planning on doing to make that happen? If you have other goals, maybe it's just, hey, I'm advancing in my job real quick. That works too. There's many different ways you can get there. But yeah, I would recommend everybody needs to make at least 2x. 3 or 4x would probably be preferred, but I'd say get to 2x first and then figure out how to get to 3 or 4. Because just with the way everything's going, I don't know if you guys saw Brian over at Tech Yes. He did a video the other day. Let me see if I can let's pull that up so this way I can plug Brian. I love Brian, especially when he does his sort of economical videos. Tech Yes City did a really good video. I should have probably put it in the description. All right, let me plug you guys on over. All right, so he did where was it? This one right here. So I've never seen the used PC market like this before. So in the video, he's basically going over how used PCs just aren't really selling right now for him, and people just don't want to pay up for it. And yeah, it's definitely tough. I've definitely noticed here recently that market's starting to dry up a little bit. A lot of people, they just don't have disposable income right now because they haven't accounted for the fact that you need to make twice as much money here in 2024 as you did just a couple of years ago to keep the same level of lifestyle going. And yeah, used PCs, that's part of the reason why I kind of got out of that. I noticed that towards the tail end of last year. I'm like, the market for this is dying. Nobody was spending over $1,200. So that meant you're just in super budget land. And then, eventually even that's going to dry up. And Brian's seeing that over in Australia right now, but I can account for that kind of being the case here as well. It's not that people don't want PCs. It's just that the people that have money, they don't want budget. And then, the people that don't have money, well, they don't have money. They can't really afford it. I've talked about it on Techonomics a couple of times, but the amount of people that'll be like, hey, do you still have whatever, like a couple N64 games or a console or something. Like I said, I like to keep it around $100. And then they'll be like, yeah, if you still have it like 3 weeks from now on the 1st, I'll check my budget and see if I can be able to get it. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But I'm not dealing with anything that's like, $4,000 or $5,000 here. We're talking $100, maybe $200 if you want a couple extra games. I don't know, man. It's definitely getting a little tight out there. So that's part of the reason why I wanted this shift on the channel. And, I wanted to help you guys realize that, yes, you can start a side hustle. You can start doing something on the side. Keep your main job. until it's not financially viable. If you make more money doing something else, well, you leave your job and you go do the thing that's paying you more. It's just like if another job offered you more money. But, it's definitely something that everybody kind of needs to do because you can't expect your job to keep up with inflation and the cost of goods because, well, they don't have to. They can give you a 10% raise, and most people are going to be happy with that. Meanwhile, you literally need a 100% raise increase from just a couple of years ago to actually keep up. So the Joe Normies are going to get suckered into that and lulled into it and go, oh, I got a 10% raise this year. Meanwhile, the company's like, yeah, we're actually paying you 80% less, because their products are going to go up accordingly, which is significantly higher than whatever they're paying people usually. I'm blasting last epoch right now. Okay. Hardware Talk New Zealand. Welcome, buddy. Welcome, welcome. I bought all my hardware last year for the coming downtimes. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people did too. A lot of people bought over the past couple of years, and there's really just no reason to upgrade hardware. Buying PC hardware is actually one of the worst investments you can ever do, especially if you can't write it off. If you can't write it off, you honestly shouldn't even be buying new PC hardware. You should only be buying very, very old hardware that has bottomed out because this is what happens to PC hardware. It drops immediately. It is one of the fastest things to lose value. So it's one of the worst investments anybody can make. Now, if you could write it off, it's fine. You spend $3,000 on a PC, you can write it off and just not pay the government. So you recover quite, depending on what your tax rate is, you can recover quite a substantial amount of that investment. But if you're not writing it off, honestly, nobody should be buying new parts. You got to wait until they kind of bottom out. So what'll normally happen is they'll drop off a cliff for about a generation or two, and then they'll kind of settle for a while, right? It'll kind of find a floor and it'll bounce around there for a while, and of course, it'll slide down over time. But what you really want is you want that sharp shear. You don't want to buy new because you're immediately going to lose money. You want to wait for that first drop off at the very least. You're best off waiting for the second drop off. If you catch the first drop off while it finds a bottom, like when it's really low. So for example, when I was telling everybody to buy RX or RTX 3080s for $400 when they were 400 or less, that was a good time to buy because now they bounced back a little bit, right? So you could have saved maybe an extra 10% had you bought then, and then you wouldn't really need to wait for the next drop off. So, but that's usually the smarter time to buy is once the market starts correcting the value on things and it kind of normalizes a bit. But yeah, I mean, it depends on use case. Like I said, if you're writing it off, then who really cares? So for work and stuff, it's not as big of a deal. But for the end user, unless you have plenty of income, lots of money, yeah, I mean, there's just no point. Which, once again, it's the whole reason why I switched over the channel was to help you guys generate, an extra $2, $3, $5, $10,000 a month. I'd love everybody in here to be making 250, 300,000 a year, which is my personal goal, is about $250,000 off of this business. So that's about 500,000 a year in total sales. I figure it'll take probably 2 years to get there. It could be accelerated if the economy gets better. If it gets substantially worse, might take a little longer, but it's one of those, it's not a if, it's a when sort of a thing, because it just keeps compiling upon itself. So for example, I buy something for $50, I sell it for 100, then I buy $100 worth of stuff, right? And then I sell it for 200, and it just it keeps going. So just have to get the inventory level to that certain point. I really do want to get to the point where I'm starting to get into the investment tier stuff. So that's your high end sealed graded sort of stuff, things that, millionaires will buy. I mean, maybe not even millionaires, just people that are like 401k is kind of stupid. I'd rather have an actual thing that's worth money. Some of those things sell for a lot of money. So I eventually want to get to that point where I'm dealing with those from time to time. Because there's a lot of people out there that's what they're looking for. They're looking somewhere to put their money and, Graded video games took a huge drop off after 2022, which everybody and their mom would have told you, crypto bros are going to go away and all the rest of that, but they'll be back at some point. And, they're still higher than where they were before the whole mining boom and COVID and all of that. So, it's expected that, they're going to creep up a bit. They'll shoot up at some point, drop down. But anyways, over the long term, that's definitely a market. Just like with art, if you're going to buy a piece of art, the value will go up and down and whatever, but eventually over a long term, it'll have a nice return on itself. So there's a lot of people out there that spend $5, $10, $20,000 on a video game. And, it'd be really nice to kind of get into that. Obviously, making 50% on that's not really a thing, but, if you make 20% on 10,000, it's not too bad. That's pretty good for a day's work. So that's kind of where I eventually want to scale to, but it takes a lot of money. I would need the business to definitely be. I would need probably at least $1 million in inventory at that point, I would say, which sounds like a lot, but when you really think about it, it's really not, especially when you're talking about things that are thousands of dollars a piece to get there. But once again, it's just a time thing. It's how long will it take, depending on the market and all the rest of that. So I would definitely say my opinion of money has changed dramatically over the past couple of months, because I mean, it's really just a time and an effort sort of thing, but almost any amount of money you could possibly think of is achievable, unless you're like, I want $100 gajillion. Okay, that's not going to happen. But if you want to be a millionaire, that's not even all that difficult, I would say. Just depends on how hard you're willing to hustle, and how many hours you're willing to put in, that sort of thing. But becoming a millionaire is not difficult. Becoming like a billionaire probably would be, but even that's not impossible. So it's definitely been kind of eye-opening. Things that I was like, man, that's really expensive. No, no, it's not. It's just because, everybody's been kind of conditioned to be like, oh, this is what well-off people make. They make like six figures. Six figures is nothing. Six figures is like getting started money. That's like nothing. And it's just absolutely amazing to see, like, when there's so much potential out there. I don't know. I just feel like the curtain over my eyes has been lifted. It's like, here's the potential. Here's the potential that's out there. And then it's just up to you to go get it. So I'm super excited, man. Graded is essentially art. Yeah, effectively. And it's treated the same as art is kind of the way that people look at it. So for example, let's say I'm not super knowledgeable in it. There's a channel you guys could check out if you want to check into graded stuff. Let me pull this up. This dude kind of knows his stuff, and he kind of goes over a lot of that. I've been watching this guy to kind of get up to speed quickly. So it's called Get the Greg Games, and he talks a lot about graded. Now, what I find most useful about his content is he'll let you know, like, there's only one of these at this quality level on the market. So, for example, if you have the only copy of, let's just use Resident Evil right there because it's on his thumbnail, of Resident Evil at, let's say, a perfect 10 in the world, then, that will always be worth a massive premium over whatever that there's multiples of, right? If there's a lot of 9.8s and so on and so forth, it's not going to be as valuable, of course. And yeah, people treat these like art. And, I know like some of the Super Mario Bros, some of them go for like hundreds of thousands. I mean, look, a Mario Odyssey, something you can go out and buy right now, selling for $3,360. I mean, yeah, it's a perfect 10, but still, I mean, that's a game I think you can go to the store and buy right now. So people spend big money on this stuff. So it's definitely a business that can scale. That's the reason why I'm using this as an example. This is definitely a business model that can scale. Now, it's not like every day you're going to come across these sort of things, but if you go to some of these auctions and maybe everybody's buying the Zelda, maybe that's the thing everybody's spending their money on or looking for. But if you find some of the ones that kind of get neglected and then bring them back a couple of years later when the market's hot, you might get your 50% or double, 50% margins on some of this stuff. It's absolutely crazy. how quick these things can go up and down. But like I said, the trajectory is all up. It's just like any other stock or any other investment. You talk about doubling income. I'm definitely not getting there. Well, I mean, crazy. I mean, well, what are you trying to do? Like, what are you working on? Like, what's the goal? What's the game plan? You're never gonna make double working for the same job. Well, I wouldn't say never, but it's highly unlikely that you will ever make double working the same job, no matter what it is. Unless you're in commission sales, because if the prices of the stuff doubles, then your pay doubles. I guess commission sales, you'd probably be doing okay. Goal, welcome. Thank you for the 10 months of support, buddy. He said, I'm still paying for this. Well, I thought the channel was dead. Kudos, Chris. This channel's mostly just kind of like a vlogs type channel now. Just gonna be, hey, this is what's going on. Hopefully some people can see some success and try to emulate or at least find the encouragement to become successful. But goal, I know you're doing all right. I mean, there's definitely some guys, members that I don't have to worry about, but it's the people that are like, oh man, this thing's like $200 more. And when I saw the amount of people on Techonomics that were like $200 is a lot of money to me, I was like, okay, this is 2024. $200 is almost going to a restaurant. It's like a night out, without going to the bar. It's just dinner, a nice dinner, to be fair, but it's one dinner. Now I don't suggest everybody go spend $200 every night. Like I said, it's a nice dinner, a special occasion sort of thing, but it doesn't really get you very far nowadays. You're like, hey, I got $200 in my pocket. I'd be like, okay, well, probably hold on to that just in case something comes up. And for the poor folks out there that don't have $200 in their pocket, it's like, okay, how can we fix this? You need to have cash in your pocket at all times. Yeah. Let's see. Hardware saying I tried side hustle a good few years ago when the used market was a lot better. Unfortunately, I was too nice and eventually was making more than I spent. Yeah, well, it depends what you're getting into. So once again, when it comes to like PC stuff, stay away. It's a terrible market to really get into because the value continues to go down. There is no recovery. There is no nostalgia really when it comes to PC. It doesn't bounce back. Now with video games in general, so like console games, once something gets around 20 years old, it bounces back because the people when they were kids that really enjoyed that stuff, they now have disposable income. So, and they'll have kids of their own. So the interest level in 20-year-old game stuff just starts spiking up. Like I said, right now, 7th gen is starting to take off. So that means Nintendo Wii, PS3, and Xbox 360. That's going to be the next wave. That stuff is still cheap right now because people haven't quite caught on to this yet. So I'm giving you guys kind of the heads up on that one. So start hoarding Wiis, especially PlayStation 3s, PlayStation 3 controllers. Like even if you don't have a big budget, just buy every PS3 controller you can get for like $10 or less. Buy them all. Used ones, of course, because a lot of them are failing. I'd say 4 out of 5 that I get don't really work, and people still want the original ones because, nobody wants the third-party stuff. So, anyways, those are becoming extremely rare, and yeah, that's the generation that it's about time for that to start going up. So, pick them up while they're cheap. You could sit on them for a year or two, and I'd say you'd easily double your money. Now don't buy the shovelware Wii stuff. Buy the games that people are gonna want, like your Mario Karts, your Mario Galaxies, your Wii Sports, Donkey Kongs, like that kind of stuff. Even some of the more popular games that you wouldn't think of, like there's some Resident Evils on the Wii. That sort of stuff. I would definitely recommend picking up. So just big franchises, things that people that are, just imagine somebody 25 to 30 years old. They might have a kid or two. What would they want to play? That's kind of the way that I look at it, and that seems to be doing extremely well for me. The PlayStation side would be more for men. wanting to play maybe more darker, grittier games, just get all like the PlayStation exclusive sort of stuff. Your Ratchet and Clanks, Gods of War, Killzones, Infamous, like that sort of stuff. That'll do really well. But believe it or not, like Call of Duties, they're super common, so they're never gonna be worth a lot. But they're great for bundling because a lot of these people are gonna want to go back and play like Modern Warfare 1, the original one, like that sort of stuff, especially with their kids and stuff. And Goal, thank you for the 20 Mexican pesos. He says, fine for me, more money for Techonomics. There you go, buddy. What we got here? We got crazy. I'm already working 60 hours a week, running heavy equipment. My free time is my free time. The economy be damned. Okay, well, if you're not making enough money, I mean, 60 hours a week at a job, and if you're not doing well, I mean, you might want to look for another avenue. Like I said, if you can squeeze out a couple hours here and there, let's say 10 hours a week, 5 for sourcing, 5 for selling, nothing too crazy. Yeah, I would go that route. My number one recommendation that can kind of, well, I mean, you're running heavy equipment, so maybe not for you, but for most people, you can cut out your sleep a little bit, right? So most people operate fine with 6 hours of sleep. So if you're sleeping more than 6 hours, you might want to draw from that pool if you need more time. You can make do with 5, a mix between 5 and 6. Maybe you sleep in 1 day a week. That'll work okay. I don't recommend going down to 4 too often, but that's how I became successful at what I'm doing very, very quickly. Was as I was sleeping anywhere from 2 to sometimes 6 hours a night, because that's the time that I had available to me. I did that for about 2 months or so, but that gave me the jump start that I needed. I needed all of that time to get inventory, to get my basically just to get my inventory level up to an acceptable level where I always have something on hand that's worth selling. But I would recommend, if you're working 60 hours a week and it's not cutting the mustard, it might take you a little bit longer to adjust, but clearly something needs to change. I'm gonna miss those Xbox One controllers. Not really sure what you're talking about there, Goal. Talk about the old Xbox One controller, because those things are everywhere. Xbox stuff is so easy to get. I remember when I was sleeping 4 hours for 2 months. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. However, like I was saying earlier, I was sick this week. Kids were sick, so got some sleep this week, and I'm kind of up and running. But yeah, 6 hours is pretty good. I would say I could do 6, and then maybe 1 day a month I need like an 8-hour. But everybody's different on that front too. Like my wife, she needs at least like 7 to 8 hours every night, otherwise she can't function. Everybody's different, but I don't know, man. Juggling time is the most precious thing. It's definitely the most precious commodity that's out there. All right, so yeah, not a lot of chatting going on. All right, so yeah, there's what I find very interesting is how off-putting this shift in content has been to people, because they'd rather, most people would just rather complain about a situation rather than fixing it, and that is very, very true. But I'm glad to see that some people are trying things. Hardware New Zealand, he said that he tried. It didn't work. Once again, the two key factors when you're trying to pick, like, what should I get into? What should I strive for? Like, should this be the thing that I go for? Number one, do you have some knowledge or passion behind it? Like, even if you don't have knowledge, but you have passion, you can make that work. You can get the knowledge. And if you're really dispassionate about something, you can still make it work if it's financially viable. So if the ends justify the means, sort of a thing. So, for example, maybe you hate coins. You just hate it, but you have tons of information. Maybe it's something, you did with your father or grandfather as a kid, and you have tons of information on there. You can make that work if it's financially viable for you. So I would start with something that you have some information on. So like Crazy's got he does heavy equipment. Okay. That's actually there's tons of money in that. Um what I would be looking into is, how do you know how to source any of the equipment? Can you I would, if you can get your hands on some, if you already have some, maybe look into doing like a rental business because there's huge money in that. That sort of an angle. Or you can just buy it and sell it. There's a lot of people that sell those. Pawn shops sell pretty heavy stuff sometimes. Some heavy equipments and stuff like that. I know that they got some pretty big tools. When I went into a place today, it took 4 guys to carry out a saw. Some dude was buying. So, you might be able to source the stuff pretty cheap. There's a lot of auctions. You might know what to look for, whether it's good or if it's junk, if it's good value or whatnot. And then you can start flipping that sort of stuff too. So there's a lot of money out there to be made. Maybe that's where your thing is. So I would start with that. Start with something that you know about or something that you're passionate about and are willing to learn. Then number 2, what's the sales volume? So is there a high demand for it? So a lot of people will be like, yeah, everybody wants gaming PCs. Do they? Like how many people do you know and how often are they buying these things? Like as an example, it's like, oh, they buy one like once every 5 years. No, you want something somebody's buying like at least 2 or 3 times a year. This is why I wouldn't really get into cars, for example. It's kind of like a one and done. You want something that somebody's like constantly buying, high velocity, high demand, something that you could easily sell at least one of a day, sort of a thing. And then how profitable is it? Can you get the stuff cheap enough? Do you have the knowledge to repair the stuff if need be? So if you buy something for $1, can you fix it and make it a $10 item? And if you can or are willing to learn how to do that, so if you have high velocity, you have the ability to source even if it's broken. If you can repair, maintain, and stuff like that, then yeah, I would say that would work. And then you obviously have some knowledge of and stuff. So those would be the 3 key things that I would recommend. It could be literally anything. Now, if you're not sure of if there's a market, just go around asking people, being like, hey, are you interested in, let's just use Nikes, for example. I know nothing about shoes. I'm not a shoe guy. I'll wear shoes for like 15 years until there's literally nothing on my feet but laces. So shoes aren't my thing, but like Nikes, for example, I know that there's a market because there's a real collection scene. I know there's a market for tools because everybody on the planet needs them. Even the really hoity-toity people that don't use tools, they have to hire other people that need tools. Everybody needs tools for stuff. So tools will always be necessary. So there's always going to be a market for something like that. But if you're not really sure, like if Nikes would do well for you, you could just ask around, just go out somewhere, your church, go to your bar, go YMCA, I don't know, just go somewhere around you where people are and congregate and hang out. Go to the park and just be like, just start a conversation and just bring it up casually. Be like, hey, yeah, so I'm thinking about selling Nikes. And if they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know anything about that. And if that's constantly what you're getting, well, maybe there's no real market there. But if you get, oh, that sounds really good, I'd be interested. Do you have a card? If that happens to come up more often than you were expecting, probably a good market to go in. So that happened to me a lot, It'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm thinking about reselling video games. Oh, yeah, do you have a card on you? And this is back before I had cards. So I'm like, no, but, you can check out my YouTube channel and whatever. I had somewhere where people could go to get more information if need be. And literally, I'm at the point now where like people are like, hey, if you come across these, just send them to the side. I'll buy them. There's no negotiating on price. It's just, if you get this thing, I want it. So I have like, 8 or 9 people in that particular category right now. So that's real nice. Literally have people that do storage locker cleanouts. If they come across games, they'll just give me a call instead of listing it themselves. Just be like, hey, this is what I got. How much you want for it, sort of thing, or whatever. I've got other people looking to source for me. They'll go find the games. I pay them a percentage. So I make money, they make money. And yeah, so it's just kind of this revolving sort of thing, just because the demand's so high. Let's see. Leasing heavy equipment's big money. Yes. So Crazy's been making e-juice as a side hustle. My prices are gonna double when with new taxes in a couple months. Source everything before the taxes. Well, there you go. There's good money in that then. If you got stuff cheaper, yeah, cool. Mind you, I only sell to like 3 people. Well, yeah. I mean, if they're paying up though, the hard part's scaling, I would say. That's why, like, I said, gaming is really, really easy. It's very hot, at least where I live, and like I said, even with eBay. So I'm guessing it's hot everywhere because, I'll get 5 to 10 sales on eBay a day, and that's I only sell to the U.S. I don't ship outside the U.S. So that's just here in the U.S. But everywhere I go, man, I'll see PlayStation 4s, PlayStation 5s, Xbox Ones, Xbox 360s, or you'll see Xbox 360s as well. But like all the modern stuff, Switches. I'll see Switches everywhere. You can't go anywhere without tripping over a Switch. It's not what people are buying. we're literally in the market where it's like, if it's not 20 years old or older, nobody's really interested. But yeah, like if I go somewhere and I'm like, oh, there's a PlayStation 2, that's pretty cool. Like, I don't need any right now. I've got 3 or 4. I don't even remember, but I've got a few of them on hand. So I'm like, I don't need any more. Or an NES or, or a Super Nintendo. If you run across a Super Nintendo anywhere for sale, that's not going to last long. Unless they just put stupid prices on it, that's going to go pretty fast. That's probably the hardest common console to find, I would say, in my opinion. But yeah, anyways, if I go to a place and I see these things, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I'll make a mental note. If I happen to need one, they have one here. If I need it, if a customer is like, hey, I really want this and I don't have any, I'll pay up a little bit more. If I make $10, who cares, right? I just know where I can go and I'll make $10 on that and hopefully sell them some other stuff. But yeah, all of the older stuff, PS1s, surprisingly enough, whenever they're there, when I see them out and about, those go away real quick. I'm starting to see GameCube sit, which is interesting, considering how fast those were flying for a while. I think a lot of people figured out Wii's play GameCube, and that just seems to be booming right now. But yeah, people want the older stuff, man. It's really, really strange. NESs. One of the pawn shops I went to yesterday, they had $165 on it or something, or 125 or 165, somewhere in that range. Anyways, it's way too much. But I'm like, this is what the market is now demanding, where they could put that price tag on there. Of course, if I said, hey, I'll give you $100 for it, they'd take it, right? But still, $100 is what I would sell it for. And we're talking NES with 2 controllers, Mario Duck Hunt, and a zapper. $100 is what I would charge for it. These places are charging the same amount. They don't clean them. They don't put new 72-pin connectors in them. Like, when you buy from me, you're getting a superior experience to these guys. So I usually charge a little bit more. Because they're actually cleaned and tested and refurbed and everything. And trust me, people really do appreciate that, especially when you package them nicely. I just buy some cheapo boxes and put the accessories in like a Ziploc bag and stuff, and you just make it look really nice. Trust me, people, they're good spending an extra 10, 20% when presentation's really nice. On top of everything else. But anyways, I was just like, wow, they're outcharging me. If they were charging the same price, I'd be like, that's fine, because it's a pawn shop. Everybody's going to negotiate down. But they were charging 25% more than I do. I was like, that is nuts. But these guys are starting to catch on. That's where the money is. It's not PS4s. You can't give those things away. PS5s, I think, still do okay. But that's kind of it. Everybody who wants a Switch kind of has one. And Xboxes just aren't selling. So it's just really kind of interesting. Have you tried streaming old games? I don't got time for old games, man. I don't even play games anymore. I don't have time for it. Watch a guy played Lion King, had like 3K people watching. Yeah, see, my whole thing is I don't care about YouTube. Don't care about the views. I don't care about any of that. Honestly, it's mostly just for the people that want to better themselves to learn from. But yeah, no, I have no interest in entertaining. I have no interest in Besides educating people, that's it. That's it. It's just straight, here you go. The facts of life, hard truth. Hopefully you'll be motivated to do something. That's kind of all I'm shooting for. So no, I don't have time to play video games anymore. How about Nintendo Switch? Any deals out there? Yeah, Switch games. Games are valuable right now, but you have to realize that generation's about to die, and then they're gonna tank. They're gonna go down. They haven't bottomed yet, so you really want to buy stuff when it's 5 to 10 years old. Usually, that's kind of like when it bottoms. PS4 and Xbox One, we're kind of getting there. Wii U is at the bottom. It's right in that range. So, you want to be buying those now. That's like you're buy and hold. So like I can get PS4 games for like $3 a piece now. So that's pretty cheap for the most of them. I'm starting to buy that stuff and just sit. If I do have a few minutes to play a game, I'll just play one of those, right? But yeah, no, the Switch is still too new. You got to give it a few years off the market once the new one comes in. If it's backwards compatible, some of the games will still hold value, but a lot of people will probably just dump at that point. This seems to be the way that it goes because the PS5 and Xbox both play PS4 and Xbox One games, but a lot of people just dump them anyway, right? It's like, oh, I just want the new thing. Basically, you just want to wait for all those people to dump their stuff, price the tank. That's when you buy, and then sit on it for a couple of years. And then when people go, hey, I want that thing again, and then you charge them like 10 times what they sold it off for. People should just hold on to their stuff is the moral of the story, but they won't. So, you might as well take advantage. Got a Virtual Boy brand new in the box. There you go, man. You can sell that and that'll help you with your heavy equipment business. Those things are not cheap. It's brand new sealed. I'm assuming it's just complete in box, but even still. Let's pull this up. So, Virtual Boy. If it's sealed, you want to go pay the $1,000 and go get that graded. Why don't they have a Virtual Boy on here? Boy Nintendo. Is it one word? All right. Graded $25,000. See, that's what I'm talking about. Only one sells per year, but that'd be fine. That'd be fine. So yeah, if you have a brand new one, go pay the money and go get it graded. Even if it's not the best grade, doesn't really matter. Now, if it's just complete in box, man, that's still not too bad. That's $500. And these guys are spiking right now. So that's the loose price. Bees. Yeah, I mean, when one spikes, the other one's spiking. But you got this guy selling for 600. That's gone. 660. That's gone. If they're in really, really nice shape, probably with all the original stuff, you could probably get more than the 500. So probably closer to 600. CIB. And then once again, if it's sealed, yeah, it's going to be a lot of money because those are very rare. But yeah, so anything like that, if you find anything that's 20 years old or older and it's sealed, go pay the money and go get it graded. And then you sell it. You investing in any special storage? No, I don't need a storage unit yet. I'll build a shed or something if I have to. Quality can't be preserved in a dampened warehouse. Yeah. Yeah, you need climate control. Damn, it's never been opened. Yeah. So what you want to do is let's throw you back on over. So VGA is the only one who grades things with boxes. So you're gonna want to go to these guys and create an account. This VGA. Yeah, that's not the thing. I don't know. Maybe that's the parent company. VGA grading. Okay, that's the right thing. Okay, so Yeah, they'll charge you a lot of money if you say it's value. I would just say the value is maybe like 5,000 or something. If you say, yeah, it's $25,000, they'll charge you like 2 or 3% of that. So it can get very expensive. But uh, yeah, you get it graded. You go find one of the big auction houses like Heritage. Go watch Greg. Get the Greg Games. Yeah, he'll tell you. There's Heritage, and then there's one other one that does really high end stuff. And yeah, you send it in. They're probably gonna take 20%, but still. So let's say you spend $2,000, get let's say 20,000 bucks. That'd be pretty good. Or you can wait till the market's in a better shape. So if the market's going up, the economy gets a little bit better. People are pissing away money more. Honestly, that's when you want to sell because you might get double this at that point. Now, of course, this depends on grade. Let's see what we got here. So graded, and they only have one comp. When was this? This was one. So this just sold. This is VGA 85 plus. So that's a pretty good grade. So let's say you get an 80 or an 80 plus. You're not going to get 25,000, but might be 15. Or if you wait till the market gets better, maybe you do get the 25. Who knows? But yeah, there's big money in this stuff. Let's see. My aunt got me one, and for herself back in the day. Cool. Never used hers. Gave it to me. Yeah, I'll have to get it graded. Yeah, there you go, buddy. Yeah, so go to VGA. Like I said, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg up front, but just go. Doesn't matter. It's going to be, you'll get way more than whatever back out of it. So there you go. Talking about collecting, is the GPU collector market dying? There really never was a GPU collector market. There's a few people like Pony and maybe yourself and a couple other people that might go ahead and want a very specific model, a high-end model, but I mean, that was never really a thing. It's mostly just people just want the GPU for what it is, not for for its performance, not for what it actually is, right? So it's just two completely different things. I have not seen that really translate over to PC outside of 3DFX. That's really the only thing that it's really kind of ever stuck to. There's a couple other pieces in the PC world that are highly sought after, but there's usually a reason for it, not like I want this exact model, and the only reason why I want it is because it's that model, right? That doesn't come up too often. Once again, the Titan XP Star Wars edition is really the only thing that comes to mind that might fit that. Maybe like a Titan V, but even that just I can't see the demand. Can't see the demand there. Mike saying, "See, you're sitting on a golden goose. Didn't even know it." Yeah, there you go. I'd say that's that's a good bump. Figured maybe 400 to 500. Well, if it was opened, yeah. I mean, if you don't even want to deal with grading it, they're still going for like 1,400. When I see 25 grand, like I said, now it really depends on the condition. If like it's really beat up, it might not be worth grading, to be fair. But if you're like, no, looks like it's sat in my closet for 25 years, maybe a little dust. I think you pay them like $20 or something. They'll clean it for you. They'll let them take the dust off for you professionally, and then let them grade it. Then yeah, if you get an 85 plus or better. Now imagine if you get like a 90 plus or a 95 plus. Now you're looking at, you get a 95 plus, I guarantee, or a 90, 95 plus, yeah, somewhere in that range. You might even be in 100,000. Yeah. So there's lots of money out there for this stuff. Been in the closet. All right, beautiful, cool. I'll give you $500, cash money. I wouldn't do that to you, but there you go. And then poof, you have some startup capital, and you can start doing your own thing there if you wanted to. Whatever it is that you choose to do. There we go. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be using this as a talking point and be like, yeah. So on my live stream, found a guy. I don't know, anywhere from $1,000 to 20 grand. We just found it. We just found it for him. Awesome. See, this is what I enjoy. This is what I enjoy, is helping people. Great. GPUs are good to own just in case Taiwan crypto takes off. Nah. Not enough money in it, man. There's not enough money. There's no money in PC. That's why nobody cares about it anymore. It's just not a market where there's any real sustainability. I was talking with Celso earlier today, and he's like, "Is this market just you know, it's just not worth it for these companies to invest billions and billions of dollars for the technology to sell to a market that wants things for like $500 or $600." It's like, yeah, exactly. There's no money here, you know. People's incomes do not scale with the cost of, manufacturing and R&D and all the rest of that stuff. So yeah, I just see it becoming a second, or I mean, it's already kind of a second fiddle sort of a thing, but we're probably looking at like third or fourth. There's just not enough money in that particular market. And the fact that everything loses value so fast, so hard. It's like buying cars, right? You buy a new car and in 10 minutes you're down 20 grand. Why nobody really recommends buying a brand new car. It's like, buy a car that's like a year or two old with like 20,000 miles. It's going to work like brand new, but it's not just going to fall off a cliff 10 minutes after you drive it off the parking lot, right? So kind of the same idea with PCs. The value just doesn't hold. Mike saying you might have a rare piece of art. If he's got, I mean, it sounds like he has a brand new factory sealed Virtual Boy. That is definitely a piece of art, because there's not a lot of those floating around. Why it's worth as much as it is. And if it's in really good shape, there's obviously not a lot of them floating around. Otherwise, nobody'd be paying 25 grand for one. So, yeah, pretty awesome. Best Buy still selling RX 580s for 120. Yeah, I know. What was it? Our guy sent one over to me. I still have it sealed. I'm like, this thing's still worth 130 bucks. You go to Amazon. I have people all the time. They're like, it's not fast enough to be worth that. I'm like, go check Amazon. If you want to buy one of these, I'm selling it for a little bit less than that, because I don't need it anymore. I'm like, this is what they go for. I literally had one dude arguing with me on Facebook. He's like, it's like a $50 card. I'm like, no, I went to eBay, they're $130. Go to Amazon, they're $130. Like, if you want what I have, the fact that that seal isn't broken means it's worth 3 or 4 times more money. Because it's, what, 8 years old now? We're literally in collector territory at this point. But they keep making the things. But yeah, I mean, it's old enough now that it's starting to become like a collection piece if you have one sealed. People don't understand, if that sticker ain't broken, especially if you're approaching 10 years old, that means it's worth significantly more. It doesn't matter how slow it is. If it couldn't even run, the BIOS, wouldn't matter. Is that sticker broken? No, it's worth money. Just like our buddies figuring out, with that Virtual Boy, that sticker alone is worth $1,000. You go from $500 to $1,500 just because of that sticker not being cut. Pretty nuts. Alrighty, so I think we'll be going for about 15 more minutes. So if you guys have any questions or anything, I'd like to field your guys' sort of stuff instead of me just putting information out there. I kind of want to gain the feedback from you guys. What are you guys interested in? I mean, we just found up to $25,000 for somebody, so that's fantastic. Uh, anybody else have anything silly, rare sitting in their closet? I'll pay half. I'll buy it off you for half. Start a YouTube channel cutting stickers. I mean, you can do that. A lot of people do that. Was it you go buy, $20,000 Pokemon packs or something? People open those up. You spend $4 million on like a box of Pokemon originals, first editions or something. People do it all the time. You just need to have very expensive stuff. Like you go find crazy and go, here, I'll give you $5,000. I just want to cut this open on camera. People will watch that. And a lot of collectors will cringe and be like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But for the people that actually have one already, they'll be like, haha, my value's going up. There's like 8 of these things left on the planet, and you just cut one open. Thank you. And yeah. But there are definitely channels that do stuff like that, which is very, very silly. Unboxing channels. Well, cutting open new stuff that's not anything less than 10 years old really doesn't. Once you get to 10 years, you're starting to get to like possible collector territory. And as I said, 20 years is kind of the sweet spot. That's when stuff starts spiking back up in value. That's when, people that grew up with that stuff, they're older, and they're going to want it again. So, yeah. You unbox stuff that's 20 years older, 20 years old or older, that has high nostalgia attached to it, yeah, you can definitely make a channel doing that, but you better have a couple $1,000,000 to invest in that, and you're not going to make any of it back, I don't think. Neo Geo AES is still expensive. Games are too. Yeah, well, there's some systems that they just didn't make a lot of. A lot of them didn't survive. Yeah, Neo Geo stuff's very expensive. 3DO stuff, very expensive. Even Sega Saturn's pretty damn expensive for the most part. And they made a lot of those, relatively speaking. But yeah, Virtual Boy, even if it's open, not sealed, that stuff's very expensive. That's why I keep saying the Wii U is going to be the next one, because that was the last console that really did not sell well. Let me see if I can pull this up for perspective. I mean, it sold well comparatively to like an NES or something, but best selling game console. Jump on it. No, I don't want 5 best. I want like all time. Okay. So like PS2s are everywhere, but these are still worth money because this is what people want. The best selling console of all time. Same thing with DSs. I guess these aren't worth a whole lot. People are buying them because all the people when they were kids, when they bought one, they want it again. Switch will be worth money 10, 15 years from now. I'd say probably 15, 20 years. The Wii's coming back around. Like, they sold tons of those. But let's go to Wii U. Only 13 million units. So that sold less than the Atari 2600, less than the N64, less than the original Xbox. Like half of the original Xbox. And this is a more modern system, and it's Nintendo. So this sold slightly better than Game Gear and Vita. Well, Vita might have surpassed it. I don't have real numbers on that one. Did sell a little bit better than Dreamcast. Dreamcast is very valuable. So, anyways, these are super cheap right now. That's why I keep bringing this up. These will not be super cheap forever. My recommendation would be is if you can find these complete in box, in good shape, something cheap enough that you can just throw in a closet for 5 years or so, these are going to be worth a lot of money here soon. Especially once people realize, hey, I want my Wii again. Well, this does that, besides the GameCube part. But you have HDMI. Once people kind of can put 2 and 2 together, I have a feeling that these are going to start spiking up. But yeah, they sold so few of those relative to other consoles of that era, like a 360s at 84 million, PS3 at 87 million, Xbox One at 60 million. Even the PS5's already at 50 million, right? Super Nintendo at 50. Yeah. Even GameCube at 21. And we saw how expensive GameCube got. So yep, that's why I'm just like, buy all the Wii U stuff you can find. If anybody's silly enough, I bought a Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U for $5 here local. I'm like, I will buy that all day. I'll buy 100 of them at $5 a piece. I will have entire closets full of Mario Wii U games at $5 a piece. Because when those are $30 or $40 in the next 10 years, then I'll sell them all off and have a nice chunk towards my retirement. see. People want to get their hands on old games because with AI upscaling, going bonkers, if you have original content to train it on. No, most people don't care about AI. Nobody really cares about that sort of stuff. Watch the serial numbers in your sold on your sold consoles, and check if some of them come back to you. That'd be pretty smart, but eventually they probably will. I just don't care that much. AI replace Zelda with Mario, tweak the background a bit, and you got a brand new game. Well, I mean, you could do that too, but eventually AI will get to that point. But it's not so much that. It's a lot of people understand. Well, first off, modern games don't provide what they want. We talked about this on Techonomics the other day. Most people want the couch co-op group experience. That's what people. That's what gamers actually want. They don't want internet play. That's not something most people want. They want local play. Internet's kind of like the fallback if everybody's busy and can't come over, sort of a thing. But they want that stuff, basically stuff where they can play with their kids or their friends or stuff like that. That seems to be a huge one. A lot of people want to relive, the great games that they used to have. They just want to go back and play them again. And then there's also the collecting and investing aspect. It's pretty well proven by now that a physical thing that will always have somebody desiring it will continue to go up in value till the end of time. And as they're phasing out the physical media, that just means all actual existing physical media will continue to go up even faster into the future. Because anybody who actually wants to own something and have access to it forever, they'll have to go back in time and buy things when that was available. So the longer that goes on for, the higher the value it'll get. So in reality, you're better off spending $500 on a PS2 game than $2 on a Steam library, because that $500 you spend, you play it for 20 years on and off, then you sell it for $2 or $3 grand. And yeah, that's just the way that it goes, man. You can't sell any of your stuff on Steam, so your Steam library is worth $0. I spent $1 million on this, and it's worthless. Congratulations. People are starting to get a little wise to that, I think. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Kind of like 4-player GoldenEye, 4K with AI modded enemies. Yeah, see, nobody cares about AI. Nobody cares about modded. Nobody cares about 4K. What you don't realize is nobody cares about any of that stuff. Crappy graphics, 10 FPS, 4 players, having fun. That's all people care about, man. They even updated GoldenEye, and yet anytime I get the game, it sells instantly. Like, you can play it on PS4 and Xbox and I think the Switch. Nope, people would rather spend $30 on the old cart, play it on composite input on their TV without proper upscaling, and they're happy as clams, man. Yeah, so people, the things that the internet says people want, they don't give two flying craps about that. Resolution, graphics, none of that shit. Frame rate, real people don't care about that. They just want something that they can hold, sit down with their friends and kids, and play and have fun. And if they haven't changed people's minds from that yet, with 4K, 120, and all the rest of this, they're never going to be able to change that. So, and with the current state of AAA gaming being the way that it is, it's going to be. It'll happen, but it'll take a very long time for people to prefer this era of gaming than the 20 years earlier. So I don't know, man. It'll be kind of interesting to see where things are about 25 to 40 years from now. But by then, who knows where everything will be. There's no point in trying to predict that. But I don't know. A lot of kids nowadays are going back. They want CRT TVs. They want wired controllers. They want standard definition. They want cartridges. They want CDs. Now, it's not everybody, but a large enough portion of the market's going that route that they're just going to have to charge everybody else that doesn't leave the current ecosystem even more money. Prices have to go up. So let's say they lose 12%. I'd say that's probably fair. I'd say about 12% of the video game market is going to leave and never come back. and that may go up or down. I'm just giving you kind of a rough idea of where I would say things are at the moment. I know people with 4090s asking me for PlayStation 2 games. Put things in perspective. So these guys right here are going to have to just make up for that loss sales and potential customer base off the backs of everybody else, and that's going to put a bigger burden. Then more people are going to drop off. I think it's going to eventually drain the current market out, and we might get a reset and things might get better. But like I said, that's going to take a long time. But in the meantime, you can make lots of money helping people get stuff that they actually want. Call from somebody. Let's see. A lot of people still play Wii Sports. Oh yeah, Wii Sports is huge, man. You get Wii Sports, that's just like money. That's like if there was a $30 bill, that's what Wii Sports is. You're just holding a $30 bill in your hand. And if you can get them for reasonably cheap, they're gone. They're gone. Like you can't keep Wii Sports in stock, man. Imagine making bots that simulate Quake fighters in the 90s. Trash talk. Okay. What I mean is, if you have a library of old games, AI can chew through it in 1 to 2 years. One click, anyone, their phone, but you have to own the game to train. Well, you don't actually own, like, you can't train an AI on another intellectual property. You can only just play the game. I mean, it'd be like using ROMs. You can. I mean, people are going to, let's be honest, but you don't actually own the information in the game. You just have rights to access the game forever. Whereas on a digital library, at any given time, they can say, no, you don't, and you have no legal recourse. Yeah, not like Nintendo ever lets you. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't actually own the information that's on the disc. You just own the rights to access it forever. And without internet, there's nobody that can ever stop you. There's no check to the balance. Let's see. Chaos. I'm playing remasters instead of new stuff because they keep remastering games that I used to like. Yeah, well, they figured out that that's kind of their last hope. But you know, there's only so many times you can remaster a game. Like they just remastered The Last of Us 2, which was already like a PS5 launch title. I don't know. I think they're relying too heavily on. Well, alrighty, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. This is a really great stream. I want to thank Crazy, who's probably doing a happy dance right now, because that's the perfect example of what I really want to do. So I want to help show people, you know, you can game, you can have fun, but everything you spend your time on, everything you spend your money on, those are investments, and try to choose them more wisely. So, you know, if you're gonna go digital only, GOG is really the only option because you can have access to that without internet whenever you want. So you, once again, like we were just talking about, you actually have access to stuff that you're paying for. Assuming you're wise enough to buy an external hard drive and save all your games on there, which I would strongly recommend doing. But you know, there's just tons and tons and tons of ways for you guys to go ahead and make some money. You just got to find you know, a market out there that is underserved. You know, there's no real game stores out there that sell older stuff. Like you might be like, "Hey, but I got this guy over here." Yeah, well, how many stores does he have? 2, 3 maybe? There's no major chain, there's no Walmart. And the more that these stores go away from that, the higher the demand is actually going to be. I'm just letting you know that this is going to have the inverse reaction to what they're hoping for. Yes, this will drive a few people more digitally because they'll just be like, "Oh, all right." But they're actively driving millions and millions of people away from the modern gaming scene, and they're finding a nice, happy home playing some older stuff because you can get a lot of old games real cheap. Like I have no problem selling some games for like $3. You know, when I buy a giant box of like 200 or 300 games, you know, the top 10% is like double my money, and then I can basically let the rest go for free. So if somebody's like, "Hey, can you throw in some games with this PlayStation I'm buying?" Sure. You know, what do I care, right? Sure, I could throw in some games. So it's not like it's that expensive, but there's a lot of money to be made on it. So that's just the avenue that I'm taking. Hopefully you guys, like I said, if you're passionate about it or knowledgeable or both, if there's high velocity, meaning you can find buyers regularly, daily. If you can find somebody to buy what you're selling every day, at least one a day, that's decent velocity. And then if you can source the stuff, if you can get your hands on it and it's profitable, I recommend doing it because find the holes in the market, fill them, make some money. Then you don't have to worry about prices going up. Just doesn't matter. If prices go up, your prices can then also go up. It will scale accordingly. If you can eventually get out of the 9 to 5 grind, which, by the way, you can also start writing things off on your taxes. I believe even in the EU it works that way, but at least here in the US, you can start writing stuff off on taxes, and then that just opens up a whole lot more free capital because you're not paying the government anywhere near as much. So the more you buy, the more you save is actually the way that works. So make sure to use the tax code to your benefit, and you have to be a business to do that. So hopefully you guys found some inspiration here. Hopefully I didn't get a whole lot of questions, but hopefully you guys can kind of see the potential. We might have just made a guy 25 grand in this stream. So by the way, I'm expecting a compete after you get paid on that one, by the way. But anyways, guys, really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great weekend. If you guys have any other questions or if you want to chat, you can do so by clicking the join button down below. It gets you into the Discord. And then, I'd be more than happy to chat with you guys about this sort of stuff. And if you're kind of like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into X, Y, or Z, I'd love to talk to you about it. If you have any questions, I can kind of give you my thoughts. But it pretty much just comes down to those three things. Do you have interest in it? Do you have buyers? And can you get the stuff? The answer is yes to all three. There's literally no reason to do that. It is much better use of your time than pretty much everything else. So, alrighty, guys. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great weekend. And I will see you guys on Techonomics on Monday. If you're not subscribed, links are down below for that as well in the description. Alrighty, guys.